Hello and welcome to another edition of Retirement Your Way with AmeriLife of Central Florida. How you doing on this beautiful Florida weekend? Matt McClure here with you, along with Bradley and Madison Hardin with AmeriLife of Central Florida. Hello, you two.
Hey there, Matt.
Hey, Matt. It's good to be with you again. Always love these sessions.
You and me both. I feel like we always get together, we have a good time, and we share great information with the listeners. That's the most important thing. And really this week, I feel like we've got a really solid one because it's 4 habits that can wreck your retirement dreams. We're going to go through these big kind of points here that people really, I think you need to pay attention to this if you're listening to the show. And, just make mental note of these because there's some things that you want to avoid. And we're going to cover why you got to plan for healthcare costs in retirement. Those costs are not going down. They are going up. So you got to make sure that you have a plan for that. But welcome, to the show. It is Retirement Your Way, as I said. You can go to the website anytime, planretirementyourway.com. That is planretirementyourway.com. You can do a lot of things there. Among them is scheduling a consultation with Bradley and Madison. It's free of any cost or any obligation. You can meet with them regarding your own financial situation, with your family or your business. No obligation there, as I said. You can also give them a call at 386-977-9684. That's 386-977-9684. And you can also subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Retirement Your Way on your favorite podcast platform. So coming up here over this half hour, we're going to talk about those 4 habits to avoid when planning for retirement and change those things now. That's what we want to encourage you to do for a better future here. The real cost of healthcare in retirement. That's going to be a big segment of the show today. And then really those Medicare basics, right? Like what is covered, what is not. So those, holes that you need to fill in your plan when you're thinking about those healthcare costs in retirement. And we've got some more things here on the docket as time allows. But first, let's get some inspiration for this conversation we're about to have amongst ourselves. It is our quote of the week.
And now for some financial wisdom. It's time for the quote of the week.
And this week, the quote comes from the former chair of the Federal Reserve, longtime chair of the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, who said this: "The number one problem in today's generation and economy is the lack of financial literacy." Oh boy, I think that's pretty true. I wish that there are many things that I know now that I'm like, shouldn't we have learned about this in school?
Right. They didn't have an accounting class. I don't remember them teaching about, compounding interest when I was in high school or middle school.
Taxes, insurance, any of that.
So when we meet with folks, we try to just educate them on things that they may feel uncomfortable about.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that you might feel uncomfortable about with your money, with your financial life, especially with your retirement plan. And so that is the point of the show as well. I know you guys do that one-on-one with people when you meet with them. I mean, talk in that really, customized and individualized way about the things and questions that they may have and things going on in their financial life. But here on the show, of course, the point is to also educate people, and we're educating obviously in a more general way because we can't, we're talking to you through the radio or through the podcast here. We're not in the same room with you one-on-one, but we can provide this great information. And I think that it's stuff today that you're really going to latch on to. The first sort of point that we want to make here is that there are some habits that maybe you, are things that you do now that you do not want to continue doing into your retirement years because they can really wreck that retirement, those retirement dreams that you might have. And so let's look at 4 of those common habits that experts are warning about here. We found this, this was from an article, the info is from an article at Yahoo Finance. And number 1, I think is an important one because I think a lot of people are guilty about this, especially these days, the amount of debt that we all have. And that is carrying high interest debt into retirement.
Yeah, and it's harmful because, credit card balances, personal loans, car loans, they don't disappear when you retire. And what we see a lot of times is when you're working, you can afford those debt payments, right? The cars, the credit cards, the lifestyle. And then when you do retire, one of the biggest things that we see is your income is slashed, sometimes to 1/3 or a half of what you were making when you were working. And so on a fixed income, having those high interest payments could drain your savings and reduce the money for daily living. So you absolutely want to focus on paying down those high interest debts before you retire so that your income can support your lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely important not to carry that high interest debt into your retirement. Number 2 here then is, the habit that can wreck your retirement. Number 2 on the list is not having a tax strategy for withdrawals.
And this is a big one because without proper planning, taxes on the withdrawals from your IRAs, 401ks, or other accounts can quickly erode that nest egg that you have worked so hard to save up to this point. Paying more in taxes than necessary shortens the life of that retirement savings. And while we can't completely, avoid taxes, we can help to kind of plan for the rising taxes and how that's going to change when you are in retirement. And we can help you develop a withdrawal strategy that will minimize that liability by maybe utilizing Roth conversions, how to properly plan for your RMDs, and then timing that Social Security benefit and when you want to start drawing that, planning with your spouse, because Bradley and I are a married couple, in addition to business partners, I feel that we offer a unique perspective and advice in that way because we try to plan for each other now in our 30s. So I feel that is super important for most of our clients as we meet with a lot of married folks to kind of help each other plan for the future.
Yeah. And tax evasion, that would be a crime. Proper tax planning to reduce your tax burden, that is the opposite of a crime. That's just smart planning.
Totally fine.
Yes, completely fine. And so that's what we want to do. That's what we're talking about here with number 2 on our list. Number 3 bad habit that could wreck your retirement dreams, ignoring longevity risk.
Right. And that's been a rise in a risk that we've had to plan around and face because, people are living longer and a lot of retirees underestimate how long they'll live or how much they'll need to live on. Like, for example, I had a meeting earlier this week where the wife of the couple was 92 years old. And I bet that they didn't realize or know that she was going to live to 92, which is amazing. She's still getting around well. She's doing great. And the risk is, overspending early on leads to depleting the savings too soon. So we want to make sure that we create an income plan that is guaranteed for life. There's that word again, guaranteed, where no matter how long you live, 85, 90, 95, 100, that income will always be there, and it eliminates the fear of running out of money or living too long.
Yeah.
Which we find with a lot of our clients, they actually fear that more than dying. They fear, giving up their quality of life or running out of money or, what would I do in this scenario? So it's definitely something to think about.
It really is. And it's funny because it just reminded me when you were talking there, Bradley, about the client that said well into their 90s. And combine that with a memory from a previous show where you talked about being a big cruise person. Actually, last year we went on a cruise for the very first time and met this family, very nice people. And the oldest member of the family that was with them was 94 years old. And let me tell you, she was getting around as well as me on that ship. She was just all over the place. And I was just astounded. So yeah, I mean, in longevity risk, it's a thing that you have to think about because, our grandparents, great grandparents and all of that didn't live nearly as long as we are likely to. So you've got to plan to not outlive your money. You want your money to outlive you. So there you go. All right. So number 4 is a big one. And I think this one often kind of doesn't get talked about enough, I should say. And it is treating your home as a retirement plan.
Yeah. So for a lot of folks, their home can be their largest asset in retirement rather. But the risk there is that overinvesting in home improvements while underfunding retirement accounts can leave you house rich, but cash poor. And your home isn't going to help produce any retirement income. So is that necessarily the best strategy? And one way that you can fix this is you want to balance your mortgage paydowns with investing rather than one or the other. Prioritize your retirement accounts, especially if there's an employer match while you have it. That's free money on the table. You absolutely want to be taking advantage of that, before pouring money into all those home renovations you want to do, which I have fallen victim to. It's endless. We always want that new kitchen. We need those new appliances. But in retirement, your house isn't going to be able to pay you any income. So that's, a balancing act that you need to figure out the right allocations for.
Yeah, you really do. And it's important to make sure that everything is just in balance. Just this is why it's important to have a plan, right? I mean, it's important that you meet with financial professionals, that you get a plan in place, because look, retirement success is not just about how much money you save. It's about avoiding those traps that can drain your hard-earned money, like all those things we were talking about and more. And so by doing that, tackling your debt, planning for taxes, preparing for longevity, and balancing homeownership with investing, you can really protect your dreams and enjoy the retirement you deserve. So schedule that consultation. It's absolutely no cost, no obligation. You can do that today at the website, planretirementyourway.com. That's planretirementyourway.com. Or you can give Bradley and Madison a call. The number there is 386-977-9684. 386-977-9684. All right. So one of the biggest costs for people no matter who you are, really, in retirement is going to be healthcare. I mean, that's one of those things. Not only does it get more expensive as time goes on, unfortunately, the body's not as young as it used to be, and things will break down, and you got to get them fixed. So that is, something that is a huge concern. And so, the financial burden of medical expenses in your retirement, that can be big, and understanding those costs is really, really important for effective retirement planning. There was this stat that we saw, in preparing for today's show, where a couple retiring at 65 today can expect to face substantial healthcare expenses throughout their retirement. This Fidelity report said that 65-year-old who retired this year could expect to spend approximately $172,500 on healthcare throughout retirement. So more than $172,000, and projected lifetime cost of healthcare for an average 65-year-old couple estimated to be around $683,000. And that doesn't include long-term care. And so that's just astounding, I feel like, because, as we say, healthcare costs, they're only going up.
Right. And we've seen another statistic that the number one leading cause of senior bankruptcy in the United States is due to healthcare cost. And so whenever we do our planning, one of it's income. Okay. So we know what's coming in, but we also need to try to plan and anticipate what's going out. And so I know that here in just a few moments, we're going to break down some basic Medicare, ideas and topics and what that does and does not cover. But healthcare starts well before Medicare. So if you're still working, you've got group coverage, or you're on the Affordable Care Act, meeting with us, we're able to comb through those benefits and give you an idea of what you're projected to have to spend in the worst case scenario, because a true healthcare plan and a budget and a retirement plan all revolves around what's coming in and what's going out. So we need to know those things.
And Medicare is supposed to be easy. It shouldn't be as complicated or confusing as it is for folks, but we find in our seminars and in our one-to-one meetings that people really aren't that familiar with what it does and does not cover and how it's going to change, their current coverage. Like Bradley said, if you're working versus, when you're in retirement, how that's going to look. And we have all the tools and technology to be able to sit down and really explain what that's going to look like in retirement and help plan for those future expenses, because it is inevitable that you will have to use it at some point. And something that we talk about a lot in our seminars is that your healthcare choice is your first line of defense against financial losses.
It's really true. Given how huge that financial burden is, making sure that you are properly covered is really so important to making sure that you're taken care of, not only, physically, but also financially there. And one of the things that, we often say, I know that you all will often have to tell people, because this is one of those things that they don't necessarily know, is that Medicare covers quite a bit. It does not cover long-term care, right? Instead, that is not a thing that Medicare covers.
Right. No, and it was never designed to cover long-term care. The theory is that your health insurance is not going to cover you for a nursing home, right? 'Cause at the end of the day, Medicare is your health insurance coverage, not quote unquote your nursing home protection. Now, we do know that Medicare does cover 100 days of skilled nursing or rehab, given certain circumstances, but by no means will it cover you just because you can't bathe yourself or cook food for yourself anymore. So those things are not covered by the Medicare program.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we see that it's really just not a matter of if, it's more when and for how long. Because 7 out of 10 retirees today will require some form of long-term care, whether it be in home or in a facility. So that is a real concern that can be planned for, luckily, with proper planning.
Yeah. Proper planning prevents pitifully poor performance, as to steal a phrase there. But yeah, but it's true. I mean, especially with something like this, something that is as big of a deal as your healthcare is. And so let's talk about, planning for those healthcare costs in retirement. What are some things, given the sort of impacts that we've been talking about, that big impact financially of healthcare expenses, talk about some strategies that can really help retirees manage those costs.
Well, one thing is just knowing what your health insurance is going to cover and what it's not. And so for, the almost 15 years that we've been doing this, helping retirees, Medicare and health insurance has always been the first conversation we start with, whether you're new, coming up on, or existing. We want to make sure that hole is covered, if you will. People may remember there was a big boat that was unsinkable, and we want to kind of think that that's going to be our retirement is unsinkable. Well, the first hole that we plug is healthcare. So, and then the next one is, well, what happens if I do need extended care? And a lot of people don't want to talk about, going to a nursing home. And we understand that. Trust me, nobody is signed up currently if they're healthy to go to a facility. But the majority of the plans that we design for people really take care of them at home. Because the majority of the time, you may have a 2.5 year event, but the first 2 years of that care event are at your house, where family's going to be able to come to you. So most of the plans that we design to help people get cover home health care. And then if you need to go to long-term care, then there's coverage for that. So I'd say plugging those two holes right away, healthcare and then extended care event, are going to make sure that ship doesn't sink, if you will.
To continue the Titanic reference there. Yeah. I mean, that's very true. Just making sure that you are making that ship as unsinkable as possible beforehand and not cutting the corners like apparently some shipbuilders did over 100 years ago. But yeah, it's not a good feeling, to get to that point in your retirement years where you need that care. And then all of a sudden you're blindsided with the fact that, oh, wait a minute, Medicare doesn't cover this, or, my healthcare coverage doesn't extend to this. I don't really have a plan for it. How am I going to do it? get a plan in place that covers healthcare and that covers all of the above. It's got to be a holistic plan. And Bradley and Madison can help you with coming up with that plan and establishing it for you, customized to you, right? And so give them a call, 386-977-9684, 386-977-9684, or go to planretirementyourway.com. Once again, that's planretirementyourway.com. And you can get that free consultation scheduled with Bradley and Madison Hardin with AmeriLife of Central Florida. They'll be glad to do that. They'll go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, come up with a plan that accounts for all of the things that we have been discussing and more here. And so you want to have protection in place for your healthcare coverage. You want to make sure that you just have planned and that you have those guarantees that the coverage is going to be there when you need it, when you want it. And so, it really is. It's all about protecting what matters most. And what matters most is you, your life, the money that you've worked so hard for all of these years, and just making sure that you have as much protection in place as possible.
Right. I agree, Matt. And, as we kind of get here near the end of the show, another hole in the boat that we see that we always try to fill or protect our clients against is market loss, volatility, and maybe high fees. So one of the solutions that exists that we use is called an annuity contract. And so annuities come up because that is an insurance policy with an insurance company. So like Medicare, you can get a supplement, you can get Advantage with long-term care, you can have an insurance that protects that risk. But also there's an insurance contract that protects you from two things. Two main things would be market volatility and not outliving your money. And so sometimes it's referred to as the Swiss Army knife of retirement planning, because during that initial consultation, we will identify some of the potential problems that we see with your plan or with the planning up to this point, or maybe not necessarily the problem to that point, but projecting out what problems could come up in the future. So, we do use annuities in our planning, whether it be for safety or for income.
And they're so, the flexibility part of annuities, I think especially of certain kinds of annuities, really can give people that peace of mind knowing that, to sort of continue with the Swiss Army knife reference here, it's like, I've got this problem. I've got a tool for that. Let me pull that out of my tool belt or get that out of my Swiss Army knife here. And it really is something that can help in many different ways. Let's talk about here in the last few minutes of the show, something, about those different tools and those different problems that the Swiss Army knife, being annuities, can really address. You've got multiple financial purposes here: tax deferred savings, lifetime income, principal protection, depending on the type. You've got deferred annuities that grow in a tax beneficial way as far as tax treatment goes. And they often will guarantee your principal. As I said, income annuities that act like a private pension, those offer guaranteed payouts. So let's talk about the accumulation and the income phases and how an annuity can support both of those.
So during the accumulation phase, annuities offer a tax advantage way to grow your savings, even after you've already maxed out your other retirement accounts, without jeopardizing the liquidity for everyday needs. So it really just is, in 2025, we have so many options, and it's just truly so customizable depending on what the right tool for the job, like you said. And in retirement, they can also become a reliable income source where as soon as you say the word, you want to start drawing that paycheck, you can start drawing that monthly income, and it's guaranteed for the rest of your life and possibly the rest of your spouse's life as well. And that's something that we are passionate about, is protecting people against the widow's tax, the loss of one of the Social Security benefits in the event one of the spouses passes away early, the loss of a pension, whatever it might be. an annuity can remedy that by providing that guaranteed income that you can never outlive. And there truly isn't another vehicle that can do that like an annuity can.
Yeah.
Right. And the statistic as we prepared for the show is $432 billion went into annuity contracts in the year 2024. So you've heard about them. They're advertised. There are people that say, quote unquote, annuities are bad. Well, I can say annuities are great, right? So the theory is that, whenever we sit down and do planning, we try to anticipate the issue and solve that with the proper tool. And in some cases, that's annuities. Some cases, it's not. Some cases, it's long-term care. Some cases, it's not. So again, no two plans are identical, but our outlook is always the same. Is we want to make sure that you're comfortable in retirement, that you can sleep at night, that your bills are going to be paid. And that's what we just want for everybody. So we try to create a plan where we can achieve those goals.
Yeah, it's got to be comprehensive and it's got to be customized for you. I mean, it's not like going into, the big box store of retirement plans and just pulling one off the shelf and there you go. It is something that is customized specifically for you and your situation. And, it's got to cover all of those needs, which are different than your neighbor's needs, different than your parents' needs, different than your aunt and uncle's needs, right? It's all about you. And so that's why I believe you should get in touch with Bradley and Madison. Give them a call, 386-977-9684. That's 386-977-9684. You could also go to planretirementyourway.com. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of the show. Once again, it has come and gone so quickly. But Bradley and Madison, I thank you both for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us once again, and we'll do it again next time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, and thank you for listening to this edition of the show. We'll see you again next time.